Hey guys, Neomis here for today's video. Let's talk about transfers. And as you can see from the title, Tammy Abraham, I gotta say that I was pretty surprised about this, but when I was looking at this morning on the things that I wanted to kind of talk about, I started looking into broadsheets, all the kind of big newspapers, and one of the things that people have been talking about over the past 12, 15 hours, past day, is Tammy Abraham. And I gotta say that I never thought Arsenal would be looking at Tammy Abraham again. And the main reason why I could only see that happening now is because a few days ago we saw some news drop saying that Arsenal looking to actually offload Lacazette this summer because they really need the money. And I guess Tammy Abraham might be a alternative to Lacazette. Now I could see why. I mean, Tammy Abraham is what 6'1", 6'2". Uh, Not like a target man per se, and I know he probably learned a lot from Olivier Giroud at Chelsea, but he's his stature is the type of forward that I think Arsenal should be going after. But let's be really honest. When it comes to like goals, I'm not sure Tammy Abraham is the right fit. Now, don't get me wrong. For me, I like to see young, particularly English players, because I live in England, get a chance and get an opportunity. And I think Arsenal could do far worse than Tammy Abraham. But I'm not sure if we should be going after Abraham, if I want to be completely honest. And the reason why I say that is because there are two things, well, about three things that I think Arsenal should be focused on. One should be holding the ball up. The other should be aerial ability, and three, the other should be kind of scoring goals. I'm not sure whether Tammy Abraham is a clinical enough goal scorer to be able to kind of represent what Arsenal need. I think he's good. I think he's good, and he's what, 23, going on 24 in October, and he's still young, whereby he could improve and constantly get better. But again, I'm not convinced that Tammy Abraham is gonna be a very good striker. But he has the age whereby he could improve, and I easily could be proved wrong in the next 2 to 3 years when he's 26, 27 years old. Like that could happen, and it's really just about kind of having the right coach to be able to really get the best out of him. Is Arteta that guy? No, because for me, young players don't do that well with Arteta, and that's just because Arteta just doesn't play them that much. And I know someone's going to be like, "Oh, what about Smith Rowe?" No, because Smith Rowe he stumbled upon. Because if I'll say this, if Arsenal was doing well last season in that time that Smith Rowe came in, he was not having Smith Rowe in that squad. It would have been Willian all day long, and he would have had someone like Odegaard still coming on loan. Because I mean, whether you like to believe it or not, they didn't decide on bringing Odegaard on loan in January. There were talks probably from September, October time on who they wanted to bring in terms of Odegaard. And Smith Rowe would have either been used as a bench player, or he would have probably had the decision to kind of go out on loan and get some more playing time and like all this bunch of stupidness. So for me, he stumbled upon that. Um, and even though with this Tammy Abraham news, I want to say you know give Eddie Nketiah the opportunity, potentially either Martinelli or Balogun or John Jules. And I've talked about Nketiah before and what I think needs to happen for his development. But Tammy Abraham, for me, I'm not sure whether he could improve goal scoring wise, even though he does have the age. So like maybe he can that aspect. In terms of scoring headed goals, that isn't really his game. To be honest, um, I know he kind of started to pick that up at Chelsea with kind of working with Giroud, but that really wasn't his game, and he's not built like a target man. He's kind of tall and a bit lanky. He still has like decent technical ability, and I could see why Chelsea kind of chose to go forward with him more so than an Nketiah, just because of the straight physicality. Like Holding the ball up, which is kind of the third aspect of it, I think Tammy Abraham does that pretty well. And in that aspect, I can understand why Arsenal are interested in him, because I think that that's the one thing that you need is you need someone that can hold the ball up, which is something that unfortunately Nketiah doesn't bring right now, and I think he can improve on that. But if you're bringing in someone like a Tammy Abraham, what does that mean for the likes of like an Eddie Nketiah and a Balogun, who you got Balogun who's what 19, about to be 20, Nketiah who's about to turn 23. You got Martinelli who could even play there as well, even though I don't think he's a striker. You got John Jules there, who's about to turn. I think he's 20, going on 21. So like Arsenal have options, and it's the way that they go is going to be kind of interesting on how they go with that. Aubameyang is always going to be our senior striker. Like I very much doubt anybody's going to come in and say, "Hey, we're going to give you 45 million for Aubameyang and let's go." Crap. Don't mind the phone. At the end of the day, what Arsenal really need is we do need somebody for the future. I already think we have those players to be able to do so. Maybe it doesn't quite give you what you want, and maybe that's where Tammy Abraham works out. For me, it's a tough one because I remember watching Tammy Abraham about 4 or 5 years ago, when Arsene Wenger was here, and actually Arsene Wenger was interested in bringing Tammy Abraham when he was on loan at Swansea. That was the rumours back then, and I thought Tammy Abraham would have been a good shout. And this was at the time when we didn't know about Balogun, we didn't have Martinelli, and I didn't really know about Tyrese John Jules like that. So for me, it was just Giroud, uh, Nketiah, and then it would have been Balogun to be in as a potential. And you saw maybe maybe Abraham could have been uh, Giroud type evolution of the role. I think Abraham could hold the ball up really well. Aerially, not sure about that. What he can do, I think that's the part where he probably has to improve. And then his general goal scoring record for me just isn't quite up there. Like Giroud, to be really honest, within the kind of 45, 50 games a season, Giroud was scoring like over 20 goals for Arsenal. And now Giroud was a bit older. Giroud was like 2 years old at 45. Sorry, 25 when we first got him in. And even though Tammy Abraham is younger, Tammy Abraham hasn't hit 20 goals in the Premier League, and he's playing like regular Premier League games. I, in terms of talent wise, in terms of goal scoring capability, I would put him and Nketiah probably on the same level. When you look at what Nketiah did last season and kind of translate that into minutes played, I mean, Nketiah only played about 1,000 minutes. That means if you give Nketiah like a full season, which, like looking at Tammy Abraham, no, Abraham, if they're about the same. Abraham played 1,500 minutes last season. That means if he played a full season playing most games, he'd probably score about 24 goals. So maybe he is a Premier League goal a season striker. Whilst when I looked at Eddie Nketiah, he would have probably scored about 18. So it's a tough one for me. Like I don't know definitively if I would say I didn't want Tammy Abraham, especially if Lacazette was to leave, because I think that's going to be the key thing. Because if Laka goes, then you kind of have to bring someone in. And for me, you have to bring someone in that can hold the ball up, like beyond any. Because for me, that's not Eddie Nketiah. That's not his game. I'd love for him to develop that in his game to hold the ball up. I think that's the one thing. If he learn how to do that, to bring other people in play with all of his other kind of characteristics, I think that would get the best out of him. But let's see what happens. See what happens. I think all depending on Lacazette, but I wouldn't be completely against it. But for me, I'm more on the mode on how does this affect the current players that we have. So leave your comments below on what do you think. Tammy Abraham to Arsenal. How do you think it's going to affect the other players in the team? Eddie Nketiah, Balogun, John Jules, even to some extent Martinelli. And I've said this time, I don't see Martinelli as a striker, but more of it as an inside forward like Pepe. Like, how do you think it affects all of them? Would you like Tammy Abraham at Arsenal? Are there any Tammy Abraham fans? Like, would you take it? Um, Leave your comments below. Interested in how to hear your thoughts, and I will see you all next time, which will might be later on this afternoon. I think Arsenal are playing this weekend against Rangers, so I'll be putting out a video probably on that as well.